The studio lights blazed down with a harsh glow, every lens locked onto the two men seated only a few feet apart. The tension was not building, it was already exploding. The moderator had barely introduced the night's topic before Trump leaned forward, slamming a stack of papers on the desk. $80 million, he barked, his voice like a courtroom gavel. That's what it's going to take to shut you down, Denzel. You think you can smear me in front of the American people and walk away? Wrong. I'll see you in court. Gasps rippled through the audience. The number wasn't just shocking, it was cinematic. A lawsuit of that size wasn't a claim, it was a weapon, a headline designed to silence. But Denzel didn't flinch. He sat still, his eyes steady, his expression one of controlled fire. The silence stretched for a moment, almost unbearable, before he spoke. You can file every lawsuit you want, Denzel said, his voice deep and cutting, each syllable echoing in the stunned studio. But let's tell the truth, you're not suing me to defend your name, you're suing me to bury it. You don't want the world to hear what I know. $80 million isn't a shield, it's a confession. The crowd erupted, half with gasps, half with applause. The camera zoomed in on Trump's flushed face, his jaw tightening as though the insult had landed like a physical blow. He jabbed a finger across the desk. Confession? The only confession here is that you've been running your mouth for too long. You're an actor, a Hollywood liberal, and you think that gives you the right to judge me? You're about to learn what real power looks like. But Denzel didn't give him the satisfaction of outrage. Instead, he leaned back, the faintest trace of a smile breaking through. Power, he shot back. Real power isn't suing citizens to silence them. Real power is standing in front of the truth, even when it burns you alive. And tonight, that truth is this: you've cheated builders, you've cheated workers, you've cheated this country. Now you're trying to cheat justice itself. $80 million can't buy silence. Not mine. Not America's. The studio thundered with applause, cheers clashing with boos, the perfect storm of live television. The battle lines were drawn, not in a courtroom, but right there under the cameras, in front of millions. And everyone watching knew, this was no ordinary argument. This was war. The audience was still buzzing, the sound of applause and murmurs colliding like waves in a storm. The moderator raised his hand, desperate to regain control, but the energy in the studio had spun far beyond his reach. Trump leaned forward again, his face red, his hands gripping the desk as if he might crush it. His voice cut through the noise. You sit there, acting like you're the moral compass of America, but you're just another loudmouth trying to stay relevant. You want to talk about cheating workers? About silencing people? Look in the mirror, Denzel. You've spent decades in Hollywood, surrounded by lies and scripts written for you. What do you even know about truth? The audience gasped, some nodding, others shaking their heads. But before the words could settle, Denzel struck back with a calmness so sharp it was almost cruel. He leaned forward, his tone lower, deliberate, like a blade sliding out of its sheath. You think my career is the point here? He asked. Let me make it clear, I don't need scripts to expose you. The truth writes itself when it comes to you. You left a trail of lawsuits, unpaid bills, broken promises, workers begging for their pay, contractors suing for their survival. They didn't have Hollywood cameras to amplify their voices. But I do. And you know what that means? It means your silence is over. The crowd roared. This wasn't acting, this was fire. Trump's eyes flickered with a mixture of rage and calculation. He slammed his fist on the table, shaking the microphones. Lies. Every word you're spitting is a lie. That's why you'll see me in court. $80 million, because that's how much damage your mouth has caused. And when the judge sees the truth, you'll be the one begging for mercy. But Denzel didn't blink. His stare locked on Trump's like a vice. You can put a $sign on your fear, Mr. Trump, he said slowly, his words measured, echoing through the tense silence. But the price tag only shows how desperate you are. Real leaders don't run to court every time someone calls them out. Real leaders answer with actions, not lawsuits. And you? You're not a leader, you're a man terrified of the truth. The studio shook with cheers and shouts, the clash now so intense it felt like the walls might crack under the weight of it. The camera zoomed in, capturing every bead of sweat, every twitch, every defiant glare. This wasn't just a debate anymore, it was the unraveling of Trump's image, live for the world to see. Trump slammed his hand against the edge of the desk, the thud echoing through the microphone so sharply that the studio froze for a split second. "This is nonsense," he barked, his face red with rage. "You pulled that $80 million figure out of thin air just to smear me. You think you can stand there and rewrite my legacy?" But Denzel didn't flinch. He leaned forward, calm yet burning with conviction, his voice steady as he locked eyes with the camera. "Trump," he said, his words cutting through the silence, "that number isn't pulled from thin air. It's the sum of what you've taken from hard-working builders, contractors, and small businesses that trusted you. You cheated them, delayed their payments, dragged them through endless lawsuits until they were broke, and then called it business. 80 million isn't fiction. It's the blood price of your greed." The audience gasped. Some shifted uncomfortably in their seats, others nodded in agreement. A few even clapped before being hushed by producers waving frantically off stage. Trump, visibly rattled, tried to interrupt, but Denzel raised a hand, commanding the room without shouting. "You think you can silence me with lawsuits?" he continued. "You can throw 80 million, 100 million, whatever number you want at lawyers. But money won't erase the truth. And the truth is simple, you don't just cheat builders, you cheat America itself." The camera zoomed tighter on Trump's face. His jaw clenched, his breathing heavy, as if searching for a comeback but finding only silence. For the first time in the debate, the great showman looked cornered. Trump finally leaned back in his chair, his voice dropping into that familiar sneer he used so often to deflect. "You're an actor, Denzel. You pretend for a living. You don't know the first thing about business, about contracts, about winning. You read scripts. I write history." His supporters in the audience clapped weakly, more out of loyalty than conviction. But Denzel didn't let him breathe. He shot back instantly, his tone sharper, his words wrapped in fire. "An actor," he repeated, his brow raised. "At least I admit when I'm playing a role. You've been pretending for decades, pretending to be a builder, pretending to be a businessman, pretending to be a leader. And every time the truth comes out, people pay the price. Not you. Never you. The workers, the families, the citizens of this country, they're the ones who carry the weight of your lies." The crowd erupted, this time not in applause for Trump, but in murmurs of shock. Phones lit up across the studio as clips of Denzel's words were instantly shared online. Hashtags began trending in real time, producers whispering frantically into headsets as the debate was transforming into something far bigger than politics. It was a reckoning. Trump slammed the table again, louder this time, trying to force control back into his hands. "This is all theater," he shouted. "You can't prove a damn thing. All you have are stories. You think America will believe an actor over me?" Denzel stood, his posture tall and unshaken, and the room followed his movement like gravity. "America already has," he said coldly. "They've believed the workers who never got paid. They've believed the contractors who had to shut down their businesses because of you. They've believed the court records, the lawsuits, the settlements. They don't need me to tell them, you told on yourself 1,000 times. And tonight, you've done it again." The silence that followed was deafening. Trump looked small for the first time, not because Denzel had shouted louder, but because the truth had landed heavier. Trump's face flushed crimson, and his hands gripped the edges of the desk as though it might stop the ground from shifting beneath him. "Fake news," he bellowed, his voice cracking. "All of it. Lies from the crooked media, from people like you who want to tear America down because you can't stand to see me win." His words bounced off the studio walls, but this time the echo didn't carry power, it carried panic. Denzel didn't flinch. He leaned forward, lowering his voice into a steady rhythm that demanded the crowd's focus. You keep saying, fake news, Donald. But the numbers don't lie. Over 60 lawsuits tied to your businesses, millions in settlements, and stories from hard-working Americans who say the same thing again and again. They trusted you, and you betrayed them. That's not fake, it's a pattern. It's your legacy. The audience gasped, and some even clapped before realizing the tension of the moment. Trump shot them a glare, but the tide was turning in real time. The camera zoomed in on Denzel's face, serious, unwavering, a man not there for ratings but for truth. Trump tried to laugh, waving his hand as though swatting away a fly. You don't get it, Denzel. People love me because I fight. They see strength in me, not weakness. Denzel seized the pause like a seasoned performer flipping a script. He stood straighter, his voice cutting through Trump's chuckles. Strength? Real strength isn't cheating workers out of their pay. Real strength isn't hiding behind lawyers and bankruptcies. Real strength is standing up when no one else will, taking responsibility, and giving back more than you take. You've mistaken greed for grit, Donald. And America is done paying your bill. The words hit like a hammer. For a split second, even Trump seemed at a loss, his jaw working but no words coming out. In that silence, the audience roared, not with laughter, but with a cathartic release, as if someone had finally said what they'd been holding in for years. Phones rose higher, the clips destined to explode online before the night was even over. Trump finally snapped. He slammed his fist on the desk so hard the water glasses rattled. I built this country's confidence. Without me, you wouldn't even have a stage to stand on. His voice roared, but it came out less like dominance and more like desperation. Denzel didn't blink. He leaned back, calm but deadly precise, letting Trump's anger hang in the air. Then he spoke with the kind of cadence that could slice through steel. You didn't build this country, Donald. America was built by immigrants laying bricks, by steelworkers breaking their backs, by farmers, by teachers, by soldiers who never once asked for a gold-plated tower with your name on it. You didn't build confidence, you built debt, lawsuits, and broken promises. And now you want us to believe you're the only man who can save us? The studio erupted with murmurs. Trump supporters tried to shout lies, but they were drowned out by the claps and whistles from others in the audience. The tension crackled, the energy raw. Trump jabbed a finger at Denzel. You think you're some hero? You're just an actor reading lines. I've lived power, I've shaped nations. What do you know about leadership? That's when Denzel leaned forward, his eyes locked, his voice almost whispering but echoing louder than any scream. I know leadership isn't about screwing over people weaker than you. Leadership isn't measured by how many you silence with money, or how many courtrooms you hide in. Leadership is about sacrifice, about telling the truth even when it costs you. And let's be clear, you've never sacrificed a thing. You've only taken. The crowd erupted again, this time louder, a wave of applause and gasps. Trump's face twisted, caught between fury and fear. For once, he didn't look like the man in control. He looked like a man cornered. And Denzel, sensing the shift, delivered the line that hit hardest: America doesn't need a king with a crown of lawsuits. It needs a leader with a backbone. And Donald, you've never had one. The studio shook, not from sound equipment, but from the weight of the truth settling in. The audience was still buzzing from Denzel's last line when Trump suddenly lurched forward in his chair, pointing a finger across the stage. You think you can lecture me? You think people care about what you say? I've built an empire. I became president of the United States. And you, he jabbed his finger in the air, you entertain people for 2 hours at a time and call it greatness. A few in the crowd gasped, others clapped nervously, not knowing which way the exchange would swing. But Denzel didn't flinch. He sat upright, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. You confuse power with respect. You confuse money with worth. And you confuse fear with leadership. The audience roared, half applauding, half jeering, their voices colliding in a storm. Trump's face reddened, his words tumbling over themselves. You don't know a damn thing about leadership. I brought jobs back, I made America strong again. You're just an actor pretending to be something you're not. Denzel leaned in, his expression calm but his words piercing. No, Donald. I don't have to pretend. I earn my respect every day through honesty, through consistency, through standing up for what's right. You buy it. You bully it. And when that doesn't work, you sue for it. That's not leadership, that's desperation. The crowd erupted again, this time louder, the energy almost uncontainable. Camera operators zoomed in tight on Trump's strained expression and Denzel's steady, unwavering presence. Every second was being clipped and shared online, hashtags multiplying like wildfire. The debate wasn't just live, it was already viral. Trump slammed his hand on the table, the sound echoing through the studio. You don't know what it takes to run a nation. You sit there with your smug face, spouting lines like it's another movie script. But I made decisions that changed history. I stood up to China, to NATO freeloaders, to the media that hates me. That's real courage, not the kind you rehearse on a stage. Denzel paused for a beat, letting the tension tighten like a rope around the room. Then he spoke slowly, deliberately, each word landing like a hammer. Real courage isn't screaming at reporters. Real courage isn't mocking the weak or blaming others when things fall apart. Real courage is looking in the mirror and owning your failures. And from where I'm sitting, Donald, you've been running from that mirror your entire life. The crowd gasped, then burst into thunderous applause. Some stood, cheering wildly, while others booed, trying to drown it out. But the applause carried, building into a wave that seemed to shake the very cameras broadcasting the event. Trump's face contorted, his voice cracking under the pressure. You think you can humiliate me? You think you can destroy everything I've done with some clever line? You're nothing compared to me, nothing. His words tumbled out like a desperate man clinging to the last rope of authority. Denzel leaned back, folded his arms, and gave a half-smile. I don't need to destroy you, Donald. You've been doing that yourself for decades. Every unpaid contractor. Every lawsuit. Every insult you've thrown at your own citizens. America doesn't need me to expose you, they already know. Tonight just reminded them. The studio exploded. Hashtags like hashtag Denzel versus Trump and hashtag Truth over Trump were already trending. Viewers at home leaned closer to their screens, sensing they were witnessing a cultural flashpoint that would be replayed for years to come. By now, the studio wasn't just an audience, it was a battlefield. The energy surged so high that even the moderators looked overwhelmed, their attempts to move the debate along drowned in the roar of voices. Trump leaned over the table, both hands pressed down hard, his voice trembling with fury. You want to talk about failures? You wouldn't last a single day in my shoes. The pressure, the enemies, the lies, nobody's been treated worse than me. Nobody. Denzel shook his head slowly, almost in disbelief. His voice, though calm, hit harder than any yell could. This is what you do, Donald. Always the victim. Always the martyr. You call yourself strong, but strength isn't whining about being treated unfairly. Strength is taking responsibility, even when it hurts. You're not carrying America, you're dragging it down with your excuses. Gasps filled the studio, followed by a rumble of applause that grew into chants of Denzel. Denzel. The cameras panned across the crowd, people on their feet, waving their arms, their faces lit with raw excitement. It didn't feel like a debate anymore, it felt like a trial, and the jury was watching Trump crumble in real time. Trump tried to smile, but it faltered, landing awkwardly. You think Hollywood makes you some kind of prophet? You're just a man reading lines someone else wrote. I'm the one writing history. Denzel leaned forward, eyes sharp as steel. History will write you, Donald. And it won't be the story you're selling. It won't be towers and rallies. It'll be debts, scandals, and betrayal. And tonight, right here, America is watching the mask slip. The studio detonated in cheers, louder than ever before. Online, clips were being sliced, shared, and captioned at breakneck speed. Within minutes, the confrontation was the #1 trending topic worldwide. The final moments of the broadcast felt less like a debate and more like a verdict. Trump's voice was hoarse, his face flushed red with anger, but he refused to sit down. "I built an empire," he barked, pointing a trembling finger at Denzel. "I built a movement. People love me, millions of them. You don't speak for America." "I do." Denzel let the silence stretch, then rose from his chair. The crowd instantly quieted, sensing something monumental about to drop. He placed one hand on the table, his voice low but carrying to every corner of the studio. "Donald, you didn't build America. You built walls. You built debt. You built division. And when it mattered most, when leadership was tested, you gave us chaos. That's not love for a country, that's love for yourself." The room went electric. Some gasped, some erupted in cheers, others booed in frustration. But no one looked away. Trump's mouth opened, searching for a retort, but no words came. His jaw tightened, his hands clenched into fists, and for the first time all night, his eyes darted nervously toward the cameras. Denzel stepped closer, closing the distance. America doesn't need another excuse. America doesn't need another con. It needs truth. And if tonight has shown anything, it's that no amount of shouting can cover up the truth forever. The audience exploded. Cheers so deafening that the moderators gave up trying to restore order. Hashtags like #DisasterTrump and #TruthWins dominated every platform. Clips of Denzel's takedown hit millions of views before the broadcast had even ended. As the lights dimmed and the cameras cut, the image that stayed burned into viewers' minds was unmistakable: Trump frozen, fists on the table, and Denzel standing tall, steady, and unshakable, the man who had just told the most powerful figure in the world that his time was over. It wasn't just a debate. It was a cultural reckoning. And everyone watching knew they had witnessed history. Tonight wasn't about applause or headlines. It was about truth. And the truth is simple: America deserves better than division, deceit, and empty promises. Leadership is not about shouting the loudest, it's about standing the tallest when the stakes are highest. And no amount of lawsuits, insults, or distractions can silence the truth forever.